Providing live finance advice on WMAC since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Steve Rosenberg, Sherri Goss, and Randy Goss. To participate in today's program, call 478-742-0940 with your financial questions or comments. And now live from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia. Sherri Goss is here, and we need to change our intro because guess what? We have our new financial advisor here with me, Becca Wilton. Yay. So
Good
glad
morning.
to have you here. This is great. And so give us a call, 742-0940. But if you really don't want to call, what we're finding is there's a big trend in people that would rather not hear their own voice on the radio because they don't know if other people will identify who they are and they'd rather just be incognito. You can text me at 954-9855. That is my cell phone. Please do not send me spam. 954-9855 is my cell. So text me if you have a question about all the stuff that we're going to talk about today because we have a pile of stuff to talk about. The first thing I want to throw out there is the stimulus check. So my mother-in-law and her husband have not received any stimulus ever. They filed taxes jointly. They get direct deposit on their bank account. And neither of them have ever gotten anything, even a debit card. It's the craziest thing ever. So I told her, when you file your tax return this year, make sure that you get to claim the credit. So it's called a recovery rebate credit, and that's what you file. If you didn't get any stimulus checks and you were eligible last year, make sure you file for this because that will get your stimulus payment coming out now as a refund instead of just not getting anything. Let me see here if there's anything else in here. So here's the problem. The IRS is relying on a person's most recent tax return to determine whether they are eligible for the payments as well as to determine where to send the money. That's a big problem because you have a lot of people that didn't file a return because they don't have to. And so those people, if you have someone in your family that did not ever get any of this and they were eligible for it, they've got to file a tax return. That is the only thing they could do. Back the last two times we went through this, you could go to irs.gov/coronavirus, and you could do a claim there and request that you get a payment. That is over and done. No more of that. You have to file a 2020 tax return if you want to get your payment, or you will miss out on the whole thing. So, let me see. What else? And you have to file your return by April 15th. They're not extending it this year. So let me throw this out there too. So if you are not eligible for the recovery rebate credit if any of the following applies. You may be claimed as a dependent on another taxpayer's 2020 return. You do not have a Social Security number that is valid for employment issues before the due date of your tax return. And you are a non-resident alien, which only makes common sense. So, anyways.
So we also talked about the fact that if you filed in 2019 and for some reason you didn't qualify and your income was lower in 2020,
right,
then get your income tax return filed, hopefully before the March 15th deadline, so you can qualify. On the other side
for
of
the
that,
next $1,400, which is massive. I mean, that is huge. Because it's $1,400 per person and per dependent, right?
Right. So
I had that right here. Where did that go?
It's this one. Last time we had, you got $500 per child on top of the $1,200 on the first round. But now they're going to actually include the adult dependents. So this is the college students or disabled adults. So this is huge because before, those college kids that were claimed as somebody's dependent, there was nothing. They didn't get anything and the parent didn't get anything. So now they're going to, on this round, they're looking to actually let those adult dependent children be, that are claimed on their parent's tax return, the parent will actually get the money for them. And they also were going to change the limits, the income limits, from 75 for an individual to 50, and they've left them the same. So, again, whatever, if you qualified and you got the first two stimulus checks, then you want to, maybe don't do anything with your tax return because you'll still qualify this time. But if you... if
your income dropped last year.
Right. But if your income went up, you might want to wait to file your 2020 tax return.
Exactly. Yes.
Because if you had more income that knocks you out of it, which it's going to be $75,000 for an individual, up to $100,000, and then between $150,000 to $200,000 for couples. So if your income went up, wait to file your tax return so you can get this round of stimulus.
Free money,
as well.
people. Free money.
Yay.
Hey, our government's at work going into debt and just handing out cash like it's candy corn. So why don't you talk about the financial planning for retirement and what that's all about? Because this is something that Becca is offering that Steve and I do not do. And so if you want a financial plan, you can call and make an appointment with her, or you can email her, Becca, BECCA at rfmoney.com, and you guys can figure out, what kind of plan you want to do, how extensive it's going to be. Do you want a one-time thing? Do you want an ongoing relationship? But talk to us about financial planning.
Okay. So I love financial plans, and I feel like they can be useful for anybody at any stage of their life. And I'll do a written financial plan for you. We can do in-depth plans or just mini plans. I even had one of my clients, she suggested doing a newlywed financial plan.
Oh,
so
my
her
gosh.
daughter's getting married in May, and so she wants to do like some sort of gift certificate or something.
Oh, this is great.
Where she can give her child an opportunity to come in and do a financial plan. And I think what better way to start your marriage out than having a deep dive conversation about your finances and coming up with a written financial plan, so you have a roadmap for your relationship and your marriage of where you want to go, and you can work on those goals together.
So I just thought of something here that throws a wrench into this, but this could be a real solution. So I met with somebody yesterday, and we had a real in-depth conversation. He's 50-something, married, and what came out in the conversation is they keep all their finances separate. And basically, our daughter and our son, our kids both do this too. They're married and they both do this. They split all the expenses down the middle, and whatever the person makes, they can do whatever they want with.
Yeah,
I don't like that. But in this situation, he's working, she's working, they split the bills down the middle, and there's no plan. There is no plan of where they're going to end up, because each is doing what they're going to do.
And they just kind of hope it turns out okay. But when you hope, you don't have a plan, things can go really bad.
So like our daughter's a saver, her husband is not. It's just it makes me crazy. This would be great for somebody who's getting married to lay out a plan, actually to force them to talk about this and the future, because I don't know where they're going to end up.
Yeah, I agree that couples should, have a joint account and work on their finances together. I know several instances where people don't, and it works out fine.
It's a big trend. It's a big trend.
And we could do individual plans where we could kind of, take half of your house payment or however they split up their bills and do two separate plans for them. But it might also be an opportunity to talk about it, find out some of the reasons why they keep them separate, and see if there's a way maybe to join their finances together. But,
it's typically because the other party is a spendaholic.
Yeah, one of them has more of a spending problem than the other.
Yeah,
and the other one doesn't want to take that on.
Which needs to be dealt with instead of just, okay, go do your thing. I can't imagine being married and having somebody just being like, okay, I'm going to go buy this now. I don't understand it. But I think it's a huge trend with younger people.
I think it's of avoidance. That person doesn't want to deal with the other person's spending problem, and
because it creates conflict.
Yes, and it's easier to just ignore it and let them do what they want to do than try and help them or give them advice, or they may not even listen. So, yeah. Well, we can
call Becca.
Well, just a couple things. I found this article that said, "Why is financial planning for retirement vitally important?" And I was surprised. It said Americans struggle to save enough money. Approximately 22% have less than $5,000 in savings for retirement. So that's from a data published in a 2019
But you have to realize that these are people that
study.
don't make any money.
Right. It's
These
hard
are people
to
that
save.
are probably on public assistance. I mean, there's like 50% of America doesn't have any savings. I mean, really, that's more realistic.
Yeah. So a financial plan can help give you a path. It can help you be prepared for the unknown, which I think is huge. I'm a big proponent of having an emergency fund, at least 1 to 3 months at the very minimum.
Instead of a credit card.
Yes. I mean, credit cards could work if you had to, but then you're just getting in a bigger hole.
Yeah.
And then if you're already out of work for some reason and you have credit card debt, it's just going to make it worse. So part of financial planning involves building a nest egg and making sure that all of your financial obligations are dealt with before your retirement actually hits. So I think that it's really important to just get it all down on paper. The article was talking about it can help by doing planning. You can potentially minimize tax liabilities. So again, if you have a plan and you know where you're headed, you can work at your Roth IRA versus a regular IRA, different types of investments you might have. You can work at tax loss harvesting. So there's a lot of avenues you can go to, but you need to have that plan. The other thing is a budget. I know no one likes the B word to talk about budgets, but if you want to provide your family with financial security, it can be challenging without having that plan in place. And financial planning often requires you to have organization and the ability to stick to a budget. And I did some videos last fall. They're on our website under www.retirerelax.com. And there's one on budgeting and cash flow and digging out of debt. So it may be some place to start if you don't have a little chunk of money saved up yet, or you're looking for some ideas. And again, like Sherri said, come in and talk to us. We do free complimentary consultations. We can sit down and just talk through some issues and get you at least started on the path so that you can start that savings. Because some people aren't ready. They aren't there yet. They don't know where they're going to get that money to save every month. And so, we can watch some of those videos. We can talk through some issues and figure out where we can actually get some money back into your budget to start saving.
And there's a special report on our website as well called Can I Afford to Retire? So if you're on the other end of this deal and you're closing in on retirement age, that report has a budget tracking sheet. So people balk at this. They don't want to track anything because everything's on their phone now. But it's just like the diet programs where you have to write down what you eat every day. It is the exact same thing. So if you take this sheet on that special report and you put it on the countertop with a pen next to it, and every day you come home and you write down what did you spend, whether it was with a debit card, a credit card, cash, I don't care. You start retraining your brain to be more conscious about spending decisions. And the first time I did this, I started doing this back when I was at Consumer Credit Counseling Service. Gosh, I don't even, it's 35 years ago.
Like 10 or 15 years, right? Just a few years ago.
They're like way back. So way back. So I did it, and when I did it, we were fixing up a house. We had bought a fixer-upper for $10,000. It had no windows, no air, no heat. The roof needed replaced, the floors were caving in, and it was our first house project. And so we had to use credit cards at Lowe's and buy stuff. And I came home after tracking spending, and I told Randy, I said, I cannot have credit card debt. My nerves can't take it. Because I was also counseling people that were trying to get out of debt, and we didn't have a problem, but it was just the fact that there was even a balance on it. I just couldn't take it.
And you saw what could happen to people if they let it get out of control.
Horrible.
Horrible.
So anyway, the tracking the spending on a monthly basis to create your budget is an eye-opener. And the biggest memory I have, because the kids were little back then, they were like 2 and 4 or something. We're living in this dilapidated mess. I mean, there's construction material everywhere. We got these toddlers, and it's really something. And I was trying to become a marriage and family therapist. I mean, the whole thing was just really crazy. But I went to the grocery store, and I had my list of what I buy, and I use my coupons. And so I'm really being diligent. Well, I find myself randomly in the potato chip aisle, and I reach for a bag of Doritos. And literally because I was tracking my spending, my brain said, that's not on the list.
Wow.
Put it back. And I did, because it was an excuse to buy something I wanted instead of something we needed. And we didn't need to spend money on anything we didn't need back then. We were living tight. So it really does work, and it helps change your brain to make you more conscious. You can do it, as you eat food during the day. You can do it as you spend money during the day, whatever. But you have to physically write it down to get the message into your brain. It's life-changing.
You were telling me about that, and you said have it in the kitchen when you walk right in the door.
Yeah, you walk in the door, and it's right there where you have to see it, and you can write it down.
Well, then I think the other thing is holding each other accountable. If you are in a relationship, or you share finances with somebody, you both are going to look at that. And so, like you said, if you sneak off and get your coffee every morning and then something else, and all of a sudden you have like $15 or $20 every day, and you're writing that on the sheet, and maybe your spouse doesn't know about that, and maybe you're like, I don't know where my money goes. And you can start looking at that and really get a wake-up call to see where you're blowing money.
It really, really, really works. So we used to do, every January we used to do it. We've fallen off the wagon a little bit because everything is so crazy in our life right now. But I highly recommend it, especially for young people that are trying to get a grip on their finances. It's just a great exercise.
Right. If you don't have any money that you can put back every month to save for retirement, you'll never get there to your goals. So you've got to find some little ways to maybe tweak your budget to put some more money back.
So I saw a client yesterday. His father recently passed, and he's young, late 40s, and he's inheriting an individual account an IRA, and a Roth from his father. His mother had passed a few years ago. It was just really sad. It's just rough, dealing with the death of your parents. But anyways, he brought everything in yesterday, and we signed everything to move the accounts to him. And here's the key thing. So there's a new 10-year rule, and we've talked about this before, but this happened under the Secure Act, which was signed into law late last year. There are several provisions that impact distribution rules for IRAs, causing most planning consideration. Is the biggest thing about it is the 10-year rule. So starting in 2020, for IRAs passing to most non-spouse beneficiaries, not including minor children of the owner, chronically ill or disabled, those less than 10 years younger, and properly drafted see-through trusts, as a disclaimer, the entire IRA must be distributed by the end of the 10th year following the owner's death. The 10-year clock starts the year following the IRA owner's death. So this person he actually passed this year. And so the 10-year clock starts the year after the death. And so, so there's two things. First of all, because he's a non-spouse beneficiary, and there's an inherited IRA, and an inherited Roth, he has to start taking required minimum distributions this year anyways because they're in his name. So he will start doing the RMDs, and then by the end of 10 years, the accounts have to be completely liquidated. I'm hoping and praying that someone in our Congress wakes up and realizes how stupid this law is, and they reverse it. Because why do you want people to why do you mandate they spend down retirement money now instead of letting it grow for their future?
Because the IRS wants to get their money.
Right.
They don't want to let it sit
the taxes.
there. It's been sitting there in the grandma's account for 10 or 50 years, and now it's passing to a grandchild. It could sit there another 40 years. The IRS is missing out on their money.
Well, it makes me really angry. I should really write letters to somebody. But anyways, so what I told him, I said, because this is all new to him, and his mind is kind of blown with the whole thing. And I said, here's the deal. Let's take out only the minimum you have to take out every year, and at the 10th year, if they force us to do it still, then we'll do it. But you don't need the money. He doesn't need it at all. He's working.
Well, and there's an option. I had a grandmother pass away, and it went to her IRA went to her grandchildren. Mm-hmm. And so we opened up inherited IRAs for both of the grandchildren, and they each took a little lump sum just because they had some college student loans or whatever. But they're not required to take anything. It has to be cleaned out by the end of that 10th year after the death. But
they have to take the RMDs.
No, they don't have to take a required one. It's not based on their age for this 10-year rule. So they could leave it all sitting there and let it grow and take it at the very end.
So you're saying the RMDs are gone?
For this inherited rule, for the 10-year rule, they don't
Seriously?
Have to have it. Right. So,
I haven't seen that anywhere.
The article that you had printed out showed how you could wait 10 years to take anything versus the equal distributions.
Right. I didn't catch that. So that doesn't make any sense.
So it's just because the IRS wants to get their money, and they give you up to 10 years to clean it out. But so like these grandkids took a lump now, and they may wait 5 or even the 10 years before they take the rest of it.
I did not catch that at all. I don't know. I've never seen anywhere that they've done away with the RMD for inherited IRAs. I've not seen that anywhere.
Yeah, this whole new thing, when I had the 2 grandkids and they were asking a bunch of questions, I had to do a lot of research. And the example you had showed that you could take like equal distributions, and if you actually took that money and invested it, depending on how it was invested, you could actually end up with more money than waiting till the very end and paying tax on the whole lump sum. But, we can look through some more information for your client, but it's hard because this is where some people need a financial advisor, because there's so many choices for each person, and for them to try and make these decisions on their own when there's many tax, avenues that they could go with, they definitely need to talk to somebody and figure out what's best for them.
I need to look into this and make sure this is correct, because I'm not believing it. Because everybody else still has to take RMDs, so why would you make this group potentially different to not have to take the RMD? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Now, did the 5-year rule before, did they have to take it annually, or did they just have to have it cleared out by the end of the 5 years? Like before the CARES Act, it was a 5-year rule.
No, there wasn't. I read it one place, but I have not seen it hardly anywhere. So I don't even believe that that's right. I think that was more of a strategy than a rule.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've got to look this up. Okay, good conversation.
We will cover that next week in more detail.
There you go.
What about the Roth? We talked about the different IRAs.
Yeah.
And you had, we talked a little bit about the backdoor Roth.
Yeah, so I had a client. She came to us years ago, and her advisor had put whatever the max was for her age, I think it was $5,000, into a non-deductible IRA. And he planned on rolling that money into a Roth because of the backdoor rules. Well, then the rules changed, and he couldn't do it. Well, the rules changed again, and so I was able to do it for her because putting money into a non-deductible Roth or non-deductible IRA and then rolling it into Roth works around the income limit for Roth contributions. Now, there's a couple of ways to look at this, and this article is a bit confusing because they're basically taking the story of somebody who takes all of their IRAs, non-deductible and deductible, and wants to roll all of it into a Roth. So you've got tax consequences there where you have to pro rata figure out how much you owe tax-wise for the lump sum. But you can, I went to the IRS website and I went all over the internet last night. You can put cash into a non-deductible Roth, I keep saying the wrong thing, non-deductible IRA, and convert that directly into a Roth and work around the income limits, and just do that. That's what he was doing. And I have not done this. I've only done this for one person, but if you can't contribute because your income is too high, it is an option if you really want to put money in a Roth. But I've got another couple of clients that are converting all of their IRAs into Roth because every year, and what they do is they look at their tax rate and they convert the max that doesn't get them into the next tax bracket, and so they're doing it every year, and they're just paying taxes out of savings instead of taking it out of the distribution.
And then one of the articles you printed said, the main reason not to do it is if you actually have to take the money for the taxes out of the money you're getting out of there.
Right, because then you're just
cutting into your investments.
You're hitting yourself over the head.
Right.
And there's no guarantee of tax rates. I mean, you can, depending on what you look at, what you read, and what you listen to, you could think tax rates are going to go through the roof, which everybody is talking about right now because of the whole Biden everything. But it's only going to affect people that make over $400,000 a year so far that I've seen.
Right.
So we don't know that our tax rates are going to change that dramatically. So I don't know. I've looked at a lot of scenarios of converting IRAs to Roths, and most of the time the hit you take tax-wise to do it is worse than the benefit of having tax-free money later.
Right. It seems like people that maybe have a lot of money saved back, and maybe they want to convert some of this to Roths for like their children or their grandchildren, and they can cover that money. You want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a bad situation where you're taking money out of that retirement account to pay those taxes and you're cutting into your retirement.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that was enough of that. There's some other thing I wrote back here. Hang on a second. Let me see. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, and if you do this, let's say you have a non-deductible IRA and you're going to convert it into a Roth, you have to file Form 8606 with your tax return, which is how much tax you owe on the growth. You have to, if it's been sitting around, my client had to do this because her non-deductible IRA had been sitting around for years and it had grown in value, so you do pay tax on the growth with the conversion. Right,
and that way the IRS can keep track of it as well to make sure that, you don't ever get double taxed or so they can make sure they get their money.
Right. So this $1.9 trillion relief package. So I printed out a new thing this morning, and I don't understand how they're still talking about $15 minimum wage when it's not going to happen. They've already said that it's not legal for them to force that down this pipeline.
And I read there are several Democrats that aren't even on board with it. So it's probably not going to get passed as part of the bill.
Right.
But who knows if they'll pass something in between, like a 10 or 11. I don't know if that would be on the table or if it's all or nothing.
I know.
Sure.
I think they need to leave it up to businesses to figure out what they can pay. Somebody told me there's a company Thursday that announced that their minimum wage is going to be $16 an hour, and I can't think of who that is, but Bucky's gas station is $15.
Yeah,
Kroger, Walmart, Amazon, they've all increased it, and so people are doing it on their own to try to bring people into work. I don't think we need to force companies to pay anything anyways.
Because sometimes there's times where it just doesn't make sense, and like you said, the actual business owner can't afford that, and they're going to go out of business if they're forced to raise their wages.
Right. So what's in the bill? Stimulus payments, unemployment programs. I wanted to talk about that. That was new this morning. Billions of dollars in state and local governments, increase in tax credits for lower middle income families. It's just a big money grab.
Yeah, they said they were going to do the additional $400 for federal unemployment payments through August. So that would extend those benefits that we're going to run out for some of the people that are unemployed right now. So that can be a big help.
So,
and the eviction ban is extended through September. The new proposal would extend the eviction and foreclosure moratoriums until September 30th. So it's supposed to provide $30 billion in rental assistance for renters of small landlords, especially for low and moderate incomes. So that could be helpful, too. And then the student loans, I think they're still fighting about that, what they're going to do as far as student loan forgiveness. You know, some of the people were wanting $50,000, and I guess Biden is not going for that. So he said he might do up to $10,000 of canceling student debt. But
it's so interesting because what I've read about it is the people who are in default cannot pay the loans back. And they have such a massive default rate because they were handing out money. I mean, I met this girl years ago, way back. She was working at Middle Georgia Tech, and so she was in the forgiveness program because of where she worked.
Oh, yeah.
She borrowed $200,000 for a 4-year degree.
Wow.
She used the money for rent, food, transportation, school, partying.
Is it traveling, partying, clothes?
I mean, $200,000 in 4 years. Can you imagine $50,000 a year?
And she probably didn't go to Harvard.
No. She went local.
That's hard to spend that much money on a local
school.
So
she showed me this, and my head just wanted to explode. And then she said, "Oh, it's okay. I'm in the student loan forgiveness program. I just have to work for 10 years, and it'll be forgiven." So there's already so many people in that program because she qualifies for it. So she'll make her minimum payments for 10 years, and then her whole thing will be written off.
Yeah.
Who's paying for that?
We are. We are.
I mean, it drives me crazy. So I've read that there's so many people that are already in the programs that because they keep extending it, that this is a joke. The $10,000 thing is just a total joke because they're already paying it all off. They're just forgiving it. They're just writing it off.
Yeah.
Anywho, if you don't want to go into debt for college and you don't want your kids and your grandkids to go into debt going to school, you need to contact Central Georgia Tech. Go online. There are 17 career programs that are completely free, from healthcare to technology to truck driving. They're all out there. You go to school for free. You graduate. You get a better paying job. You get a path in life. I tell people about it constantly. I told people about it this week. They had never heard of it. They have a child living in their home that dropped out of college, and she doesn't know what to do. And I said she needs to go talk to a career counselor because she could be going to school for free.
Didn't you have the one guy that did the truck driving?
Yeah. The server downtown. He's a truck driver now. He went from being a server with horrible hours and no pay to he could make $100,000 by the end. I think that's been probably a year. He's probably already making $100,000.
That's
the
awesome.
Truck drivers at Frito-Lay, they can make $100,000. I mean, and they're driving a truck. I mean, come on. You need a CDL and a driver's license and a good driving record. That's all you have to have. And his education was free, and he got hired immediately. So if you have kids in your family that just don't know what to do with their lives, they've got to talk to a career counselor and get in this program. And I had clients in 2 weeks ago. I've got a couple of clients whose kids and grandkids are going through the 2-year program, junior, senior year, where you go to
dual enrollment.
And so they're getting their associates for free while they're in high school.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. I wish I'd have known about it. Our daughter should have been in that. I never even heard of it until later. But so take advantage of all these great programs that are out there to get education and move on and get a better job.
And let us know if you need help with ideas. Like, Sherri said she's helped a lot of people, point them in the right direction. And sometimes you just need to know what kind of programs are out there and somebody to talk to.
Randy has helped people, like 10 people, with their resumes. A lot of people don't want to give them a resume because they think, that they just, a lot of people are just hopeless. Honestly, they just feel like they're stuck in life and they're going to go nowhere and there's no hope for them to move anywhere. And those are the folks that we really try to help. And he has tried to help them get jobs elsewhere and tried to work on their resumes and get them to go to job fairs and such. And they just are resistant, and because they're so stuck where they are. They don't believe that they can have anything better.
It's just hard for them to see.
Yeah, it breaks my heart. I can't stand it because I never was there. I was always growing up on a farm. You had to make your future. I mean, you had to make what you were going to get. And so I don't understand being stuck in a crappy job that you hate and being miserable when there's an option right down the hall.
And it's weird because, a lot of times it's getting out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
But how comfortable is that? Like you said,
Miserable.
there are jobs that they're miserable
Right.
at.
This is
but
what I don't
still
understand.
Too stuck to try and make that change because I think the fear of it, the fear of failure or whatnot, it just gets to them.
But if it's free, go try it out. Just see what happens.
The worst could happen is your life would be better.
Right? Anyway, so if you need somebody to help with a resume, Randy actually really enjoys doing that. You can email your resume to randy@rfmoney.com, and he's worked on a bunch of them. He's helped a lot of people. The most recent one was a guy who was a server in Macon at a restaurant, and he is now a pilot in the Guard.
Awesome.
Right?
So awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, jobless aid. Oh, my goodness. This is brand new this morning. I'm sorry. I didn't send this to you. So workers whose states, this is Crazyville. Workers whose states denied them unemployment aid during COVID may be able to retroactively access benefits back to February 2nd of 2020.
Wow. According
to a new Labor Department rule. You might have somebody in your world that needs to apply for this. So if you need this article, email me, Sherri, Sherri, @rfmoney.com, and I'll scan it and I'll send it to you. Department of Labor broadened access to the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, PUA, which I tried to get people on last year, and they could not get on it. This was for like hairdressers and small business owners, because the website was so glitchy that it didn't work. The Department of Labor broadened access to the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, PUA, established under the CARES Act, and comes in response to a January 22nd executive order clarifying who can qualify. The DOL rule expands eligibility to certain workers who refuse to show up based on unsafe conditions, education workers who lost work due to a volatile work schedule, and employees whose hours were reduced or who are permanently laid off. The department also clarifies that primary caretakers for children whose schools have closed have a valid pandemic-related reason for not working.
Wow.
So people that had to stay home with their kids and they can't work from home are eligible for this thing. So if you know somebody in that boat, they need to get on the Georgia DOL website and apply. Today's guidance from DOL is a huge relief and welcome news to all who are essentially forced by their state to choose your money or your health when they were called back to work. For workers who are primary caregivers, they're requiring that states allow the circumstances where a child is not permitted to attend in-person school as a qualifying pandemic-related reason under PUA to certify that an applicant is unable to work. We've never had this before.
Yeah, I bet most people just think it's if their company shut down or laid them off, and that's the only way they're going to get it. They don't think about the other side. If there's a real valid reason why they can't work, like with their kids, you wouldn't even think to apply.
I've got clients who've been taking care of their grandkids since March.
Yeah, I've got some that homeschool their grandkid every day.
Yes.
And they're like, we can't see you till after 3:30 today. We've got to make sure she gets her homework done, and she's there every single day.
I had one couple that had 6 grandkids. I went to Sam's. This was the day of the Kemp was shutting down the state. So we went through Sam's Club on the way home to stock up on a few things. And this guy comes out with a shopping cart that was just heaped, piling with junk food.
Oh, wow.
And we're standing out there because it was raining, so we're all underneath the little shelter thing waiting for our cars to be driven around so we can get our junk in our car. And I said, what on earth business do you have that you're buying all of this? He said, no. He said, this is not for my business. This is for my wife. She's home every day with 6 grandkids. Gosh. All of the grandkids every day. And they're all trying to do work on either tablets or laptops. And they all had different systems. And they all were in different schools. And she's trying to...
That reminds me of Little House on the Prairie. They're in the one big schoolhouse.
Oh, my
Poor
God.
grandma's trying to take care of all of them. That's crazy.
And she doesn't know the new math. And she doesn't know the new anything. And she's trying to help them. And I hope to God those people are back in school now or she's losing her mind. But, yeah, it's crazy.
I bet she learned a lot about technology, too.
Right?
She got all caught up.
But anyways, yeah, if you know somebody who's had to be home to take care of the kids and could not work, they need to apply for this because they have back benefits all the way to February 2nd of 2020.
That's crazy. That would be a huge check for some people.
Right? I can't get my head around it. I mean,
that's
I don't even know
over a year's worth of unemployment.
Right? In a chunk?
Wow.
Do you get it all in a chunk, I guess? A big check?
Yeah. Back pay? Where's that money coming from?
We're just printing money. Anyways.
I had pulled this article about Social Security statements, and I know you've talked about Social Security several times on the show this morning, or in the mornings, but I've had a couple of clients talk to me recently about it, and it was interesting. It said 1999 is when the Social Security Administration began mailing out their paper copies of the Social Security statements, and everybody used to get them, and you just kind of wait around every year, and you'd look at it and go, okay. Well, then there was budget cuts in 2011, and that's when they stopped producing the mail statements.
I wonder how much they really saved.
I don't know, but think about how many they sent out.
That was a lot.
So then there was something later in the article about, like, in 2014 they tried it again for a year or two, and then they got their budgets cut again. But you can go online and open up a Social Security account, and hopefully many of you have already done this. But if not, it's SSA.gov.
.gov. And it's My Social Security, and it took me less than 5 minutes to create a username and a login. But write it down. Down. And you have to put in confirming information about who you are, kind of like when you look at your credit file. It was very similar.
They just changed it. I was reading this article that it used to be, what street did you live on in this year, or what loan was your car loan with.
Yeah.
And they said people struggle with that so much because even though it was maybe one bank, it had a different name, and so people couldn't remember the exact addresses. So they've changed it to just your regular information, and then they do the two-part authentication where you do your phone and stuff.
Oh, that's better.
So they just changed it, I think within the last couple months. So hopefully that makes it easier. But the article is just talking about making sure that you review page 2, which is going to have all your estimated retirement. So you can look at the differences between 62, 65, 67, or 70. And again, when we were talking about the financial plans, we can plug all that information into the financial planning software, and it'll give you the optimal time. And some people want to retire as fast as possible, but maybe just stay in an extra year or two and waiting to get that Social Security can make a huge difference in your retirement.
Because your payment goes up 8% a year.
Yeah.
That you wait every single year until 70. And so what I encourage, if I have a couple where one person has worked and the other person has stayed home, I really like the person that worked to wait until 70 so that the spouse could do spousal benefits and get half of his.
Right.
Because it's typically the husband that worked and the wife that stayed home with the kids, because it makes a huge difference if you can wait. And the fortunate thing is, if somebody likes their job and they're okay working to 70, that helps a lot, because you're going to live probably another 20 years. And so you've got to figure out with inflation, you need as much income as you can have. You don't want to have to spend down your retirement just because you're retired. That's not a good plan.
Right. I had a client this week, and we were talking through, and he had wanted to work till at least 62 and maybe 65, and he's 60, and he lost his job. And so he's like, I could get by, and, we looked at his finances. I'm like, I would agree that you probably could get by, at least till you're 90 or 95, but what kind of retirement are you going to have? Like, I think you probably do need to go back to work and work at least to 62, 65, and to be able to get your Social Security check a little higher, and so you're not dipping into all those savings, because you may need that down the road for, just a little more comfortable retirement, to be able to do more things instead of just sitting in your house every day.
Right,
so,
watching TV and going insane.
Yes.
So your benefit is based on your highest 35 years of earnings. So you have to work at least 40 quarters to even qualify, but it's the highest 35 years of earnings, and they're indexed for inflation. So if you're in a high-paying job and you have less than 35 years of earnings, you really benefit huge by staying in that high-paying job until you cap out your 35 years, because that maxes out your benefit. And the more you earn later in life, the bigger your benefit gets, because it already is growing. It's growing statistically just by 8% a year, but the more you earn and the higher your earnings, it even makes it higher. So it's a big deal, and it's a guaranteed thing for life. The government's not going to do away with it. I know a lot of young people think that it's not going to be there for them. But there's a tipping point, what I've read in a number of books, that when millennials hit about their 50s and they hit their peak spending years, and all of us old people start dying off. So there's a tipping point where the earnings are up and people taking benefits are lowering, that Social Security is actually going to be okay.
When some of those baby boomers have moved on, not taking all the money anymore. So what's Tuesday, Sherri?
I'm turning 60.
Yay, Sherri's birthday.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, how exciting. 60. What happened?
Oh, one last thing about the Social Security. To be sure, on page 3, it lists, like you were talking about, the 35 years. It lists all your years of income, and be sure to look through that.
Yeah.
Especially if you're self-employed. If you've had,
make sure it was reported.
Right, and you can go through there, and there's a form you can fill out. You can do it all online to update any of that. And if you need somebody to look at it with your CPA or a financial advisor, and make sure that those are right, because that can affect your whole entire retirement if the numbers are wrong that's been reported.
So one of our listeners emailed me this last week after the show, and he said that he's locked out of Social Security, and he was really frustrated because he couldn't remember the street he lived on or the school he went to or whatever, his stuff that he put in before. Yeah. So guess what? You have to call. You have to call, and their offices are still not open. So you got to call the 800 number and talk to somebody so you can reset your password. They don't have a way to reset it online, I guess, because of security.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
That's a really rough one. So whatever you do, when you log in, please write that stuff down so you don't get locked out.
There's some apps on your phone now that you can do for like Password Keeper or something, or maybe, if you're computer tech, maybe use like an Excel spreadsheet or something.
That's what I do. I still do a spreadsheet and print it out and save it on a thumb drive.
Because there's so many passwords now. It's like hundreds of things that we have passwords to. And
everywhere you go.
And they all have to be a little different sometimes, exactly 6 or exactly 8. So write them down and keep them somewhere safe.
So we bought encrypted thumb drives years ago, and we scanned our wills, powers of attorney, all of our insurance policies, investment account information. We scanned everything and saved them on the thumb drives, and they're encrypted. They're password coded, and so you have to enter the password to be able to get it open on your computer so nobody else can open them. But I keep it in my purse. I mean, so anywhere I go, I have access to all of that information anywhere I would need to be, and our password sheet is updated on that every time I update it.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a really great thing. It doesn't cost that much. I mean, these encrypted thumb drives are dirt cheap now. And so if you want to do that for your spouse or for your power of attorney, that's a good little weekend project to go and just get everything scanned in to that thing, or just save it. If you have it on your computer, you can just save it right into the thumb drive and then just set up a password and hand it to the person and say, here's my life in an encrypted thumb drive. But it gives me comfort knowing I have it on me all the time. So if something happened and our house blew up, I could still have my stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And even maybe put a copy in a safe deposit box if you still have one of those, or a fireproof safe.
Oh, my
make a couple copies.
I had a client this week. The father passed. He had dementia, and so he goes to the house to find the will, and he has taken 5 truckloads of papers to the dump.
Oh, my goodness.
The guy saved every piece of paper once he started having dementia, everything. And he couldn't find. He went to the safe deposit box. Nothing was in there. He was just freaking out because he needed the will. And this is a lesson. Get it now. Know where it is now. And if you're the executor, put it in a safe place where you have it instead of depending on someone else to keep it in the safe place, because stuff goes crazy as we get older. But anyways, they were taking people over to the house to give away, just like, can you use any of this furniture, friends of theirs. Well, somebody wanted the desk, so he had to clean out the desk, and it was full of a box of papers, and he has to go through every piece of paper, and he found stock certificates.
Wow.
He found the will was in the desk.
Oh,
it was rolled up with a piece of, like a rubber band around it, and he's like, I cannot believe I found this. But he brought this pile of stock certificates to me that we've got to research to determine if they're even still anything or not, valuable or not. But he had no idea, and I had no idea. And this was a client, he never told me he had all this stuff. Wow. He never told anybody he had all this stuff. And so they're having to go through, so don't do that to your kids.
Well, or your spouse. So I started a book, and I labeled it When I Die. And, there's just so many things, especially I'm in a second marriage, and so, you haven't been with each other from the very beginning, so you don't really know. Maybe there's a secret life insurance policy that you even forgot about, and, it may not be much, but every little thing. And so I have a page for, any old 401ks or any old pensions or life insurance policies. And so, just have it all written out so that spouse, if something happens to one of you, the other one can know where to go and not have to dig around and do an Easter egg hunt like that poor guy.
That's right. He's going crazy. Anyways, we have a phone call. Good morning. You're on with Becca and Sherri.
Good morning. The very best to Sherri and Becca this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am so glad you're there, Becca. You just sound so informative.
She is.
Well, thank you.
So I think you're doing a great job, and there's so many people out there that have so many questions that are just probably scared to call in, or their own reasons. I know Mom, she never wanted to call in because she said, I'm not talking on the radio. See, I'm not talking.
That's why I gave up my cell phone to people so people could text me.
Yeah, and you might want to kind of update that, Sherri, you know, as you go through the program, because some people need to write it down and then they can't do it, you know, when you tell them, you know, so it's what you want to do. But the main reason I'm calling is I know a lady that is very upset because her account that she has with the advisor was breached.
Oh, wow.
She's so worried about, you know, the money that she has with them. And I just wanted you to kind of talk a little bit about that, because it's a scary thing when you have, you know, a lot of money in one spot and then something like that happens and you're worried that you could have nothing the next day, you know, and then people would try to explain about that. So if you would talk a little bit about that, and I'll just get off the phone and let you continue, okay?
Absolutely. So I had a client that came over a couple of years ago, and she was with a massive nationwide firm, and she took her 401k and rolled it over to them, and everything was fine. And all of a sudden one day she gets a letter in the mail from them that says that she's changed her address. And she calls them and she says, I didn't change my address. And they said, well, you sent in a form.
Wow.
And she said, I didn't change my address. I'm telling you, I didn't send in that form. Oh, let's put a red flag on your account. So she hangs up thinking it's going to be fine. 3 months later, she gets a confirmation that she took a $70,000 distribution.
Oh, my goodness.
And she didn't. So she figures she went in for a procedure at the hospital, local, and she figures that somebody stole her information out of her medical records and then drove by her house and pulled the statement out of her mailbox, which is why I don't like statements with full account numbers on them coming to your mailbox at all. I like that online only. And then they filled out they went to the website of the fund company and they filled out a distribution form and an address change, and the whole thing went through because they never flagged her account. So what works for us is if you have an account with us, we call home office and we put a restriction that nothing can be done on your account without verbal consent. And so we do it for a lot of clients, and it's easy. All it takes is a phone call or a ServiceNet ticket, and we enter it and we confirm it. So we have a number of clients that have their accounts locked down because of identity theft. And so if you're concerned about that, call your company that you're working with and have them lock your account. But in this case of this woman, they told her that that was the first case they'd ever had, and they were going to have to change their entire protocol because it didn't work. The people were asleep at the wheel at the call center, and they never did anything.
I was going to say, with the call center, you know, you're just taking the word of this person, whereas, you know, a smaller firm, you know, we know our clients'
We're very
voices
engaged with our clients, and so we fix it. And then we have to, if you want to take a distribution, we have to literally call and unlock the account for you. But we confirm that it's you calling. We confirm by your Social Security number, other personal identifying information, and we personally know people, and so we stop all of that. We don't have any of that going on. But if you're in a big 1-800 number company, it would be worth it for you to go and call them and lock your account down, especially if you are not taking any money out and it's not going to cause any kind of a hassle for you, because these hackers are smarter than ever, and your information is just hanging out there everywhere you go. I mean, think about your medical, all the doctors that we've seen and dentists and all these people that have all of our stuff.
Yeah.
They really need to shut down the Social Security number being in our medical records. They need to come up with some other plan, and they talked about it and they've never done anything with it. But your information is hanging out there, and it's not that hard for people to figure out what the number even is, even based on what you give up on Facebook and all the other places where you post all your stuff about. And one other thing about that, I had a case a year ago, September. A guy came to me. His wife had been sick for years, really seriously ill, almost died. They put her through treatment. She recovered. Then she got sick again. And so he was a caregiver for about 5 years. And when she passed, and they did the service and everything, he told his neighbor, he said, I'm going to check out for 5 days. I've got to take a break. I'm exhausted. And so can you get my mail for me? And the neighbor's like, sure, no problem. So he goes off somewhere and just takes a 5-day hiatus from life. And he comes home. He goes to his neighbor's house and he said, hey, I'm just here to pick up my mail. And the guy says, well, you never had any. What? He said, that's impossible. I get junk mail. I get mail every day.
Yeah.
How is this possible? And the guy said, seriously, I've checked your mailbox every day. You have had no mail. So he calls the post office, and they say, well, you changed your postal address to a post office box in New Jersey a month ago.
Wow.
Right? So he's like, no, I didn't. And they said, well, you did. You need to come down here and fix this because you sent in the paperwork. So turns out there is a massive problem with obituary identity theft.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So his wife was sick in the hospital. So he figures somebody in the hospital stole her information, went to their house, got something out of the mailbox just to verify that they live there, sent the paperwork into the post office to change their mailing to this place in New Jersey, and then hacked into her credit and opened up credit cards in her name by themselves.
It would be like a little smorgasbord. If you had all their mail forwarded to you and you could just go through every day and pick and choose and wait for the right bank statements or the right credit card offers or who knows what, you could get a lot of information over time.
Yes, it's very bad. It's a huge problem. And so if you're preparing obituaries for a loved one, you don't put in where they were born.
Okay.
You don't put in the names of all their relatives. You don't put in any personal identifying information, period. Make it a fun story about who they were, but leave all that other stuff out, because identity theft, people are hacking and going all over the place with this stealing. And people think, well, they're deceased, so I don't have to worry about their credit. But that's the opening door for these people.
Right. If the companies haven't been notified yet, then they're not putting lockdowns on it.
So you need to shut down their credit reports.
Mm-hmm.
You need to shut them down. They're deceased. Just close it out to try to shut these people down. But it's so crazy.
And with someone being deceased, it's probably going to take a lot longer to catch something than for you when you're still living and you're getting alerts or whatever.
Especially if they change your mailing address and the deceased person's mail goes somewhere else. You're never even going to know about it, and they're going to get away with it.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple emails, and sometimes it's spam, but sometimes it's been real. You just always want to check them when they say your address has changed. Please let us know if you didn't request this, or your password's been changed. Stay on top of those, because some of them are spam, but some of them, like you say, could be real. And if you ignore that where it says your address got changed, that could be the beginning, and you could be able to stop it before it gets too late.
Right. Yeah, that was good. Good call, Bobby. So let's talk about the mortgage thing.
Oh, okay.
I think this is good. And I had somebody ask me just last week, should I refinance? I'm paying 5%. I said, yesterday. Run now to your bank.
It's almost half now.
So anyways, if you want to know whether you should refinance, Dave Ramsey, who I love, has a really good mortgage refinance calculator on his website. But you need to find out what it's going to cost you first. So anyways, it says here the average rate across 30-year fixed loans in December was 2.93%. Our daughter refied theirs to 2.2, and they're saving $400 a month on their mortgage. And they're continuing to pay that on the principal. So they've accelerated their loan. They're going to be debt-free in 15 years on the mortgage if they just do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like it's half the time is normal.
Well, and if they go ahead and keep it at the $400 less, and they keep making that extra payment, if something does come up, they're not locked into that higher payment.
Right.
So they could actually take a month off from that if they had an unexpected
problem
bill,
of some sort.
But they could go right back to it. So that's a great idea.
Yeah. So anyways, I highly recommend it. So we're down to a minute. I can't believe this went by so quick. You've been listening to Your Money, and we are Becca Wilton. I might get choked up here every single Saturday. Why don't you close this out? I can't even talk.
So I'm Becca Wilton, and I was very excited today to be here with you all and share information. Sherri and I, Randy and Steve, we're all available. If you need anything, just give us a call, send us emails. We just love to help, and we're always here for you.
Complimentary consultations, numbers 478-922-8100, or you can email us. It's our first names, like Becca, BECCA, at rfmoney.com. Same with Sherri, same with Randy, same with Steve. But anyways, I hope everybody has a great weekend. It's going to be absolutely amazing outside. It's going to be in the 80s.
I know. It's supposed to get to 80 today.
So guess what?
It's crazy.
Pollen.
Pollen spores.
But anyways, check out our website, retirerelax.com. Lots of free reports and great information, and Becca's planning information, right?
Yep. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
views expressed on this show should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities or services mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risk, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should only be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Securities are offered through Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated, member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services are offered through Rosenberg Financial Group, a registered investor advisor not affiliated with Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Offices are located at 2517 Moody Road, Warner Robins, and 4875 Riverside Drive, Suite 201 in Macon. Phone numbers are 922-8100 and 741-4457.